For today's meditation, we are reading from the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 12, verses 1 to 7. These are the statutes and rules that you shall be careful to do in the land that the Lord, the God of your fathers, has given you to possess all the days that you live on the earth. You shall surely destroy all the places where the nations whom you shall dispossess serve their gods, on the high mountains and on the hills and under every green tree. You shall tear down their altars and dash in pieces their pillars and burn their Asherim with fire. You shall chop down the carved images of their gods and destroy their name out of that place. You shall not worship the Lord your God in that way. But you shall seek the place that the Lord your God will choose out of all your tribes to put his name and make his habitation there. There you shall go, and there you shall bring your burnt offerings and your sacrifices, your tithes and the contribution that you present, your vow offerings, your freewill offerings, and the firstborn of your herd and of your flock. And there you shall eat before the Lord your God, and you shall rejoice, you and your households, in all that you undertake, in which the Lord your God has blessed you. The first commandment and the greatest commandment is concerning our relationship with our Creator. God gave the Israelites his commandments and statutes concerning worship, through the commandments and also through the construction of the tabernacle. They saw the signs of his presence both on Mount Sinai and also when the tabernacle was consecrated. The Shekinah glory of God descended in their midst. But even with all these proofs, when Moses took longer than expected to come down from the mountain, their hearts turned away from God to worship the golden calf. Long after that day, Moses is recalling those events. Now that Moses would no longer be with them when they go into the promised land, his heart would be pounding to think of their attitude. Thus he repeats the minute details of their worship of God. The human heart contains a vacuum to be filled with wonder, worship and admiration, which only the living God is big enough to fill. But men from the earliest times have tried to fill it with anything other than God, whether it be with their ambitions, with themselves, or with evil spirits, and the list goes on. Moses tells them, these are the statutes and rules that you shall be careful to do in the land that the Lord, the God of your fathers, has given you to possess all the days that you live on the earth. Firstly, he deals with the who, or the object of worship. In a world where every idea, object, or person is accommodated in the pantheon, God remains exclusive. He tells them to destroy all the objects and places of worship that they see in the land which they were to possess. When God appeared to Gideon, he instructed him to first remove the altar of Baal and tear down the Asherah in his father's house, and then to build an altar to the Lord and offer a sacrifice. It would have been easier to build the altar of the Lord alongside the altar of Baal. It might not have created such a commotion and anger among the people. But the true worship of the living God is single-minded. For those who worship God, know him and refuse to entertain any creature who claims to be God, any idea or thing that tries to compete with his eternal power and divinity. Anything competing with God has to be torn down first, before even thinking of worshiping the true God. God will never share the stage with anyone else. Secondly, he tells them the where of worship. The Canaanites built mountain shrines to their gods in every high place. This was easy because the promised land was full of valleys and mountains, as we read in the previous chapter. God forbade this practice and instructed the Israelites to worship God only in the appointed place. But you shall seek the place of the Lord. Your God will choose out of all your tribes to put his name and make his habitation there. There you shall go, and there you shall bring your burnt offerings and your sacrifices, your tithes and the contribution that you present, your vow offering and your freewill offerings, and the firstborn of your herd and of your flock. In the history of Israel during the times of the kings, many reformations occurred when many idols were smashed and altars burned down. But the writer notes that the high places were not taken down. They left those high places and they became a way for them to go back to idol worship. What are the high places in our lives? They are the seemingly harmless things in our life that we cherish, that cause our hearts to depart from God in any way. These must be broken down before we can come to Christ, who is our appointed place of worship in the Spirit. Christ has no fellowship with Belial. Idols, no common place with the living God. Thirdly, he tells them about the how of worship. In verses 29 and 30, Moses warns them. When the Lord your God cuts off before you the nations whom you go in to dispossess, and you dispossess them and dwell in their land, take care that you be not ensnared to follow them after they have been destroyed before you, and that you do not inquire about their gods, saying, how did these nations serve their gods, that I also may do the same. You shall not worship the Lord your God in that way. For every abominable thing that the Lord hates, they have done for their gods. For they even burn their sons and daughters in the fire to their gods. The pagans performed detestable acts to appease their gods and ensure their own prosperity, like offering their children by fire. We shudder to think, even think of such a practice. But a little thought will convict us that we allow our little children to be sacrificed to a desire for the world's acceptance, fame, wealth, success, and recognition. We offer them up to the world's philosophy so that we may enjoy their future success and bask in their prosperity. Jesus taught the Samaritan woman the who, where, and how of worship. In John chapter 4, verse 21 onwards, Jesus said to her, woman, believe me, the hour is coming when neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem will you worship the Father. You worship what you do not know. We worship what we know. For salvation is from the Jews. But the hour is coming and is now here, when the true worshippers will worship the Father in spirit and truth. For the Father is seeking such people to worship him. God is spirit, and those who worship him must worship in spirit and truth. Moses concludes the session by saying in verse 32, everything that I command you, you shall be careful to do. You shall not add to it or take from it. The who, where, and how of worship will determine our direction and our destiny. As the psalmist says in Psalms 115, verse 1 onwards. Not to us, O Lord, not to us, but to your name give glory for the sake of your steadfast love and your faithfulness. Why should the nations say, where is their God? Our God is in the heavens. He does all that he pleases. Their idols are silver and gold, the work of human hands. They have mouths but do not speak, eyes but do not see. They have ears but do not hear, noses but do not smell. They have hands but do not feel, feet but do not walk, and they do not make sound in their throat. Those who make them become like them. So do all who trust in them. Let us turn our hearts to God, the author and sustainer of our lives, with the recognition that he is enough. He is all that we need. This will remind us to cling faithfully and confidently to him in every time of distress or prosperity. Thus, we will cleanse our hearts and lives of all filthiness of flesh and spirit and perfect holiness in the fear of God. God bless.